So, welcome back to the Charlie Cook Cricket Podcast. Now, there was a ridiculous score from Sunrisers Hyderabad today. I just cannot comprehend how explosive that top order. We then go to Chennai, where there was a very, very turning track. It felt like the Indian national team were playing with a team just being suffocated by spin. I'm joined by Sank today. He is our resident, not only Indian fan, but he's also a Sunrisers fan. So he's come on. We are going to go through it, and I'm sure that he's going to gloat about how good Travis Head is when he's not playing for Australia.
Well, yeah, it's not often that you say a team scores 245 and still end up losing, and that was Rajasthan today. I mean, they did really, really well chasing that total down. But once again, the platform from Abhishek Sharma, and Travis Head at the start of the innings just gets them going. I know Abhishek Sharma only scored 20 odd today, but it just set up the game for Ishan Kishan to come in and hit a really, really good 100. Thought that was a real mature performance after getting dropped by Mumbai and SRH picking him up in the auction. So yeah, good start for a Sunrisers fan.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I'm watching the second innings, and I think I tweeted it at the time. I'm like, Rajasthan are 152 for 3 after 13 overs and don't have a chance of winning this game. How does that even work? I mean, even if you think they're chasing 240, they've got a chance, but they had to score the highest ever score in the IPL to chase it down, which is obviously the Sunrisers. So it does make me laugh that looking at those, I think it's the top 5 scores in the IPL. You obviously had the one from today, which was second, and the other 3 are, you've got 3 that were set by Sunrisers last year and another one set by KKR last year as well. I mean, their stadium is just a flat track with 65-metre boundaries, and we're going to see 300 at some point, aren't we?
Yeah, they weren't far off today. I mean, if Travis had stayed in for 2-3 more overs, they would have easily crossed 300 today. And last year as well, this is their template now, isn't it? They bat first, they get as many as possible, and then it doesn't matter what the bowlers are doing. Like today, Pat Cummins went for a lot, Adam Zampa went for a lot, but it didn't matter because they had such a mammoth total. There's no way Rajasthan were going to chase that, and it was plenty for them. So yeah, it's just to defend SRH a little bit, 2 of their highest scores last year, over 250, were away from Hyderabad. So they can do this anywhere as long as it's a flat track. I think we'll come on to the second game. One way to stop SRH would be probably to have more of a spinning wicket to slow them down.
Yeah, I mean, every single batsman that scored a run today struck at over 200. The only ones that didn't were Manohar and Pat Cummins. Manohar out for a golden duck, and Pat Cummins faced one ball and didn't score from it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. The fact that you are getting that much explosiveness out of that batting order, up and I mean, the top 6 is just ridiculous. I mean, I thought there would have been a case to bring Clarkson out earlier. I thought, but him batting at 5. I think was it Stain that tweeted out halfway through the game at 130 for 2. They should have brought Clarkson out. I thought Clarkson was going to bat 4, and Nisesh was going to bat 5. So that surprised me, but just a ridiculous team. I mean, Ishan Kishan's not today. You look at the wagon wheel, there was not a single spot that he did not hit on the ground to score a run. It was 360-degree scoring at its very best.
And it is a wicket-keeping option as well. So they've got a lot of strength, and they seem to have built a bit more depth compared to last year. Whereas last year they were very top-heavy, and then Clarkson in the middle. Markram may have chipped in with a few year or so ago, but now they've got this Indian player in the middle, so they don't have to worry about rotating the overseas players to build up that middle order. It seems a lot more balanced for them, the top 5. And you're right. I think personally, I probably would have put Clarkson to 4, give him more time to get into the game, and then how explosive he can be. He can easily make up that strike rate back end of his innings.
The problem is we're looking for points where they could have scored 300.
Yeah.
Rajasthan were never ever chasing this down. It was
Mm.
never going to happen, and they gave it a good go. To be fair, to get to 242 wasn't a bad shout, and 99 times out of 100, that probably wins you a T20 game of cricket. I know I usually screenshot the scorecard when I'm doing my TikTok videos, and I screenshot it. I'm like, it looks like an ODI.
Yeah. I think they outscored Pakistan from the recent Champions Trophy in all their games in just 20 overs.
That's another knock for Pakistan fans that they don't need today after suffering their biggest T20 loss ever today as well. I mean, I'm a Rajasthan Royals fan, and this one, I have no expectations of this team. I think we completely screwed up the auction. Um, Jofra Archer as an England fan and a Rajasthan Royals fan, that one hurt today. 0 for 76. Couldn't find a length. Um, would drag it short. I
And
feel like his slower ball is too easy to pick.
yeah,
Um,
and it goes back to the Champions Trophy as well, where he didn't have a great Champions Trophy. It. Do we think he's not the player he was anymore, and he's just past his best, and people are picking on his reputation rather than his form?
I think he's 80% the player that played in the 2019 World Cup.
Mm.
That's probably where he is.
Yeah,
I think he's a good bowler. I don't think he's a great bowler. I don't think he's a lot. I'm really interested to see what happens when he has a red ball in his hand rather than a white ball. That he's obviously had for the last, well, literally since 2020. I think was the last test he
yeah,
played. I think that will suit him a lot more than the white ball stuff is now because we just said there's 65-meter boundaries on a flat track. If you're bowling 90 mile an hour, it doesn't take a lot to get that over the road. But I
mm,
don't think that he's got the variations that a lot of other players have because he's got that 90 mile an hour skill. The one thing that I will say is that I think where Rajasthan went wrong is they didn't bowl him with a new ball. The only time Archer looked good in the Champions Trophy was with the new ball. I was amazed that they didn't open the bowling with him. It didn't make any sense. I get that they kind of went for the matchup with Theekshana
yeah.
um, to go with spin, and I've got no problems with that. But if Jofra Archer is your expensive overseas fast bowler, and you're going to rely on him to lead that attack, then you've got to put him in the best position.
Yeah, definitely. It was very much a matchup, going with Tikshana as an off spin bowler to the two lefties. And to be fair, he did get a breakthrough in the second over,
Mm.
but by then the ball is already a little bit old. You've lost that swing factor that Archer can provide. 90 miles an hour, even the ball moves slightly, you're going to trouble the batters. I thought Faruqi started off okay. He's got his outswing work into the left-handers, but he has the tendency to go too full too quickly. And to players like Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma, who are just waiting for that ball to be in their slot, and just there's no feet movement there. They're just waiting for the ball to be in the slot, and they'll hit through it. So you kind of need that 90 miles an hour just to peg him back a little bit initially.
Yeah, I mean, Faruqi seemed to go. It felt pretty much exclusively Yorkers that he went for, especially at the front. And the problem is you're bowling to Ed and Abhishek Sharma. If you don't nail that Yorker, you're gone.
Yeah.
If that's an inch short, an inch full, that's going to be six. There is just no room for error in that. So it was an interesting way to go, but then at the death, he tried to put his length back and
Mm.
went for runs as well. Sunrisers just seemed in the mood today, and I don't think that you could have really changed much. Okay, the bowling wasn't great, but if they face a better bowling attack, is this less than 240? Probably not. I'd be amazed if it was. In terms of the Rajasthan batting, actually, one thing while we're getting on I thought Parag was really poor as a captain today.
Yeah.
Going back to the Archer thing, I also thought that it was a little bit kind of kids' cricket where they were just following the ball around
Mm.
um, rather than bowling to a plan.
Yeah.
Didn't really get
Yeah,
it
he
right.
was he's very much a deer caught in headlights, wasn't he? His first
Mm.
game, teams absolutely going at 13s, 14s from the start. Yeah, he didn't know where to turn. I mean, an experienced captain, you look at Archer, who's gone for 50 already in 3 overs, you think, yeah, I'm not going to give him a fourth. You try anyone else but Archer. but he just thought, oh no, he's my overseas. We paid a lot of money for him. Let's just get 4 overs out of him. And yeah, he's probably the difference between if it was Samsung or Butler on the field during that period, I think results would have been slightly different. I'm not saying Rajasthan would have beaten SRH, but if they just limited them to 250, you're in with a chance, then, aren't you?
Hmm. Yeah, I thought he was poor today, but as you said, what can you do when a team's going at 15 and over? It's the first
Yeah,
game you've captained, and difficult position to be in. Sanju Samson did come into the side, which I think is another issue that Rajasthan have got at the moment, because Samson has to come in as that impact sub. They don't have another way to go. They can't. They couldn't have brought in an extra bowler today to offer him something different if they found something that was going to work, because they had to bring Samson at the top of the order because of his injury. Dhruv Jarrell, who I've really liked since I first saw him in the Test series versus England. I thought he's been really good. He scored 70 off 35 today. Hetmai gave it a whack. Doobie gave it a whack at the end as well. In terms of the bowling for SRH, it was fine. I was interested to see that they went for Zampa as the fourth overseas rather than someone like a Van Mulder or someone like that. But I guess they didn't need the extra batting in the end
yeah.
because they scored so many. Pat Cummins going for a lot of runs. I was really hoping that he was going to go for more than Archer, but it didn't quite go that way.
It is funny, like even though I support SRH, it is funny to watch Pat Cummins getting hit just
Mm.
because of the trauma he's caused to me as an Indian fan. So yeah, it's I'd take SRH winning every game as long as Pat Cummins goes for like 60 every game.
Do you think he cared? Do you think at that point did he actually care that he was going for 15 and over when he had 286 runs on the
Yeah,
board?
I think he just wanted to get the game finished, and that was the frustrating thing. We touched on it on our Twitter exchange as well. The games just drag on, and when a side is out of it, like Pat Cummins reviewing a wide ball in the 18th over, what is the point? Rajasthan not going to catch up, just bowl, and the review process is so slow. It's so tedious. It takes age. It's just a wide. You need to draw two lines. Crack on. Why is it taking about 10 minutes per wide review? A T20 game should not be lasting 4.5 hours. And like you said, the fact that it's going over the second scheduled game kind of tells you the broadcasters, the people who are running the IPL need to sort this out.
This game finished 1 minute before it just turned to that 4 hour mark. It finished at 1:59, and the problem is by the time you'd done, obviously I was watching on Sky.
Mhm.
By the time I'd done all of the post match interviews and we'd gone through a couple of ad breaks, um, Mumbai were no CSK were 21. No, Mumbai were 21 for
Yeah,
two at that point. I
yeah.
turned it on and Rickleton had just lost his wicket. I thought, oh, okay, great.
Yeah, and if this is going to keep happening, if Mumbai are batting, you're never going to see Rohit Sharma bat through this IPL. You just missed it for the whole series. It is poor. They need to do something about it. I know it's the first time they're trialing it, and to be fair, I was impressed with the tech. That fact that it draws a line where the
Mm.
batter moves to, and then the wide line moves accordingly, and you see where the ball's going. So it's really good because it's really decisive. You know you're going to get a black or white answer there. But the fact that it's taking ages, it needs to speed it up because it's just
Yeah,
taking
it
all the momentum out of the game.
the wide and the no ball reviews do seem really really slow. The review that was quick, and I cannot remember the batsman. Um, I can't remember who it was, but it was the Clarkson stumping.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it went to review. It was saw 2 frames of it and
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, that's not out." And you kind of think, "Yeah, I probably agree, but that looks really close." I was listening to it on the
Yeah.
radio, and I had it on in the background on the TV as I was kind of running around doing stuff. I can't remember who was on the comms, but they were saying, "Well, no, that looks really close. Can we have another look at it?" And then they just started playing again. You thought, "Oh, that looks kind of out."
Yeah. The actual replay you should be showing several times and take your time over. You just rush through.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was unusual.
I'm sure they'll sort out some teething problems
Yeah.
with it. And I mean, we're gonna still have 4 hour IPL games. They're not all of a sudden gonna make them quicker because the slower they are, the more ads you can get in.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a
that's
reason that we
exactly
have a 2.5 minute Seat tyres timeout every
it.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Other tire manufacturers are available.
yes, there is no free ads on this channel.
No.
I mean, the one thing I will say is that there is on occasion, if I won't be at home or something, and I just want to watch it on my phone, and I can't find a stream for it anywhere. I'll watch like an Indian stream,
Mm,
somewhat illegally, and the amount of ads that they put on Indian TV is ridiculous. I
mm.
mean, it's worse than American TV. I couldn't believe it's every over.
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's just between balls, the screen shrinks, and you get an advert around the edges as well. So the concept of involving the audience in a game, there's no such thing. It's just ads, ads, ads. Oh, there's a bit of cricket, by the way, and that you could see why cricket is so lucrative for TV, like for TV rights in India, because they get one match, they can sell every single inch on that screen for so much money. That's why it's such a big money thing for India.
Yeah, I just the first time I did, I just could not believe how many ads they managed to fit in. Do you think there's one after every other? So that's 40. They'll have 10 in your 2.5 minutes of your Seat tyres
Yeah, which
timeout.
is another 10 minutes anyway, because
Yeah.
you have two timeouts, and yeah.
Um, so you end up watching about 100 ads in the space of one cricket game. You
Yeah.
just think, oh, well, maybe we've got it slightly lucky in England when I've only got to watch the Vitality sausage dog run around for a bit, and
Yeah.
it's not too bad. Or
Yeah.
what's the IPL sponsored by this year? It's Peri
Pepe's
Peri
chicken.
Chicken,
Yeah.
Pepe's Chicken, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did make me
They've
laugh.
opened a new store in Dubai. Like, great. Why are you telling us that in the UK?
Thanks. I'm in Milton Keynes. I don't really need to
Yeah.
worry about Dubai. Sunrise look good this year. I presume you fancy your team to at least make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's down to the bowling. I think if they ever have to bowl first, can they restrict the team down to 200 so the batters can do the job? That's where they came undone. The batters didn't perform in the final last year. As a result, KKR chased it down quite easily. So yeah, you can't be very batting heavy. Pat Cummins, Mohammad Shami need to step up and pull their weight as well. But yeah, I think playoffs definitely get to the final, and then it's a toss up on the day.
Hmm. Moving on to El Clasico of the IPL, Mumbai Indians versus Chennai Super Kings. Chennai see it over the line. 4 wickets remaining, 5 balls left. They chase down 156. Rohit Sharma goes for a duck. I mean, Mumbai just never really looked in it. It was a difficult track to bat on. You knew it was going to happen, especially with the spin of Ashwin Jadeja. I mean, Noor Ahmed, after having a really poor Champions Trophy, and kind of I'd lost hope in him being leading wicket taker of the IPL because of the poor Champions Trophy. He then just bounces back, takes 4 for 18, doesn't go for a boundary today. CSK tried to throw it away for quite a long
Yeah,
time.
got a bit
Um,
nervy, didn't it? Yeah.
yeah, but Rachin Ravindra sees it through in the end. In terms of Mumbai's innings, anything that stuck out to you there? It was kind of, with the exception of Deepak Chahar, it was all a bit slow and a bit dull.
Yeah, it felt like no one wanted to attack. Those early 2 wickets, which no one in the UK saw, it's just it killed the momentum of the innings. And suddenly they're in rebuild mode. Tilak Verma, Suryakumar Yadav, they never got going, and it just stuttered their way. They just needed one of those two to tee off, while the other one rotated the strike to keep up the momentum. But it felt like a classic MS Dhoni. I know he's not the captain anymore, but classic MS Dhoni type game where you get the seamers out the way, then just choke through the spinners, just suffocate them and not let them get away. And you'd often see spinners doing well with Dhoni behind the stumps because he is quite tactically switched on with spinners,
Mm.
knows where to put the field, tells them where to bowl. And you saw that reflected in the wickets that Noor Ahmed took as well.
Yeah, I mean, we said similar things when it was India playing. It was the middle overs today of this game where it was Ashwin, Jadeja, Noor Ahmed. I think they were 66 for 3
Yeah.
in overs out of the power play up to the death to the start of the 16th over. that's just not quite good enough. I don't think you're not gonna win many games with 155 this IPL, especially with
Mm.
an impact sub. You're gonna need 170, 175 at a minimum, unless the
I
pitch is a
think,
real mess.
yeah, on that wicket, if you probably had Bumrah and Hardik Pandya, you may have stood more of a chance. But Mumbai were up against it. They didn't have their best players on the park, and the players that did have didn't really take charge. So yeah, it just felt like, it was hiding to nothing. I know we keep calling it El Clasico, but it's been very one-way street at the moment in this rivalry.
Hmm. Khalil Ahmed impressed me today. The two early wickets. I thought he looked pretty good for CSK. In terms of CSK's batting, Tripathi came in as an impact sub, got out for two, which is my favourite thing in the IPL ever. When an impact sub comes in to open the batting and then gets out for a very low score. So his whole game lasted 3 balls today, which is just fantastic. Gaikwad went a bit nuts. He brought up his 50 off, I think it was 22, 21 deliveries.
Yeah.
Batted quicker than he usually does, and Ratchin Ravindra just stood there and watched everything happen from the other end. I mean, he batted all the way through the innings, only faced 45 deliveries, and didn't really seem to do much apart from the two sixes that he hit in the end that kind of iced the game.
Yeah, and it's very similar to his ODI game. You just don't notice him, do you? He's there. You can see his name at the bottom of
Mm.
the screen, but the runs he scores are just, they're risk free. You never see a shot in anger, and then suddenly he's on 40, 50 runs without you even realizing. So yeah, if he carries on like that and let everyone else just play their natural attacking game, I think they've got a good mix there. Personally, I would have Gaikwad as the opener. He was
Yeah.
opener, for the all few, was it last 3 years? So it's unusual, the reason that they dropped him just to get an impact sub in. And from an impact sub perspective, I know Samson did all right, but you're better off if you're not as good as Samson. Just have him in the middle order so they get into the game a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. CSK's batting today just drove me nuts outside of the power play. So they got to a point, I think they were 62 for one after the power play. They needed, what would it have been? I think it was about 90 off
Yeah.
85 for most of and then kind of followed that trend. It was about a run a ball. They kept just trying to slog it and finish it. I completely understand that net run rate is a thing, but it just felt like no one was using their brain. I was like, the only way Mumbai are going to win this is if they take wickets. And
Yeah.
you are just gifting them wickets by just being caught on the deep. Like, it did not make any sense to me what they were doing.
Yeah. It just felt like they wanted to get it out the way. They saw the other scores, like yesterday, RCB chasing in 16 overs, the SRH and Rajasthan scored today, and thought, right, we need to score quickly to keep up with those team. Um, but no, it wasn't like that at all. They could have just knocked it around, singles, doubles, got it done easily, job done, get the 2 points and move on.
Yeah, I mean, it got to a point when they needed 20 or 15. And it was then that Ratchin Ravindra hit two sixes to basically finish the game off.
Mm.
But 20 or 15, I was looking at it, I thought, this is a little bit too close to what you want it to be. I mean, I had money on CSK and I was thinking, why are you? No, stop. Just please, just win the game and stop being stupid for a little bit. One thing that I will say, I'm going to completely butcher this name. Vignesh Pathur.
Yeah, Patur, yeah.
Um, 3 for 32 today, has come from nowhere. This is
Yeah.
a MI Scout special. Hasn't played a senior game. Um,
Yeah.
got picked up in kind of one of the regional T20 leagues.
Mm.
I mean, how does Indian cricket find these gems to bring them in? I mean, come on. I mean, it's like I presume it is the equivalent of someone in England turning up to a village green and picking someone out to come and play in the Blast.
Yeah, yeah. Apart from, it's 1.4 billion people,
Uh,
and it's wherever you play, you still have hundreds of people watching you.
Mhm.
So, a village game, you still get a decent crowd. So you learn to deal with that pressure. So when you move up to levels like Ranji Trophy or, Vijay Hazare or up to the IPL, you're kind of used to playing in front of a crowd. So it doesn't phase you as much. But now that he's here, everyone's seen him, the surprise factor would go very quickly, and it'll be interesting to see how he adapts and learns and make sure he doesn't, just be a one trick pony.
Yeah, because I guess there is that thing of, especially with spinners, is if you have no video or no real kind of idea of how it's going to come out, what the variations are, it's very hard to pick straight away. And I presume there's not going to be much Hawkeye data on him, of what happens. I know that India's expanding, but I doubt they've got Hawkeye data in regional T20 leagues.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, as you said, it'll be really interesting to see how he goes. So the rest of the IPL, now that everyone's seen him and can break down a few things, that's kind of where you see a lot of spinners either do well or fail from that point. I just thought it was a nice little story for him to be playing for
Oh yeah.
Mumbai.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. More spinners the better. The next ODI squad needs to have 6 spinners.
Don't do that to me, please. I can't do I can't do six. You could ask Noor to see if we'll do a transfer from Afghanistan. Pay him some more money.
Yeah.
Lifetime CSK contracting. I'm sure he'll be up for it.
Yeah, job done.
Um, okay, let's move on to predictions for tomorrow game. Delhi Capitals versus Lucknow Supergiants. Sank, which way do you see this one going?
Luck now, just don't have anyone to bowl the ball right now. So yeah, they haven't really invested well, in the whole team. I know they're unlucky with injuries, but the team itself is just dire. They've spent a lot of money on Rishabh Pant and thought, yeah, one man army, we can build around him, but there's no one else. I think Delhi with Stubbs, Scale, Rahul, they've got a little bit more. Um, Personally, I think these are going to be the two bottom teams at the end of the year, with Lucknow being the bottom and Delhi second from bottom. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I think Delhi are going to pip Lucknow personally.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Delhi. If Lucknow was slightly fitter, maybe because I don't hate their top order.
Yeah,
I think there's some pretty explosive players in the top of the order, so I don't hate it. So they got Miller, Puran, who's
and and Rishabh Pant, and I can't.
Pan. Mitch
Yeah,
Marsh was meant to open the batting if he's fit, I
but he's
think.
injured. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I didn't mind. They were, if all of those fired, they were my pick to score 300. But it would also then be chased down.
yeah. Yeah, no matter what they put on, is getting chased down. Yeah,
Mm.
and also, I'm very against Lucknow this year after what they did to David Miller, making him compare his worst losses in ICC tournaments with
What?
with a this or that. That was just poor. The poor guy's been through enough heartbreak in his lifetime being a South African player. You don't want to do that with your own social media team.
I know. I mean, could you?
Yeah,
I mean, could you imagine if someone sat down with Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and said, "Oh, well, what was worse, when you lost the 2023 World Cup final, or when England scored 170 for no loss against you in the semi-final
mm,
of the T20 World Cup before?"
yeah,
It just wouldn't happen.
yeah. Outrage, absolute outrage. It'll be. Yeah,
It doesn't take long to say, okay, what's David Miller's best moments of his career, and
yeah,
say, oh, what's the best part? Now,
mm,
I know David Miller and most South African cricketers at this point have been relatively unlucky in their career because they're
mm,
South African. They don't ever win ICC trophies. Um, However, you can't sit down and say, "Oh, this." No, I
yeah.
saw that and I was like, I don't even want to give attention to that. It was so grim.
Yeah, and that's why I want them to finish bottom.
I wouldn't mind them finishing bottom. Unfortunately, I think my Rajasthan Royals are going to give them a pretty good run for their money. Considering we can't bat, can't bowl, can't field, and our team's too expensive.
Yeah. I think once Sanjay Samson's fit and he's in the playing 11, it'll give the team more balance because you can bring a proper impact sub in. It's just the first 2 or 3 games you're going to struggle until he's fully fit.
It did make me laugh. If you look at the Rajasthan Royals squad page on Cricket Info, every other team has 6 or 7 all-rounders because they're a little bit kind of light with the term that they use for all-rounder. For instance, Abhishek Sharma is an all-rounder. Probably some part-time off-spin would be the right way to do it. Rajasthan Royals has 1, and they didn't play him today. Hasaranga is their only all-rounder. So you're trying to balance the squad with a definite impact sub that you have to make, and you don't play an all-rounder anyway. So that's I cannot stand. Yeah. We were so good last year, and it all fell apart. And it's all fallen apart at the start. So I don't even have to get my hopes up this year. So I'm quite excited for that.
Brilliant.
But that is today's double header summed up. Sank, thank you very much for joining me. Appreciate you coming on. If you do want to check him out, all of his links will be down in the description. Cricket is simple on most platforms. So if you find it in the description and the show notes, we'll be back, I think, Wednesday, possibly, to do some power rankings after each of the teams have played, and we'll tell you who's the best team, who's the worst team so far. But remember to like, remember to subscribe, follow, leave a rating, leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next one.